Narcissist, Seduction, Episode 27. "I've just received a message from my mother," said Ashleigh. Ian, Wynne and Ashleigh walked through the car park towards the nearby office block. 3 days had passed since her meltdown on the previous Friday night, but she had made no further mention of it. She had asked Wynne to organise for her to see a divorce lawyer, and he suggested the solicitor who had acted for him in his own divorce. Ashleigh readily agreed, as she knew Paul Harrison through a mutual friend. "What does she write?" asked Wynne as he straightened his tie. "Here, take a look." Wynne halted his brisk walk as an eddy of wind blew around him, the cold air failing to penetrate his warm topcoat. He looked at the screen. "Good luck today. You have our support. Kiss, kiss, kiss." "Well, that's good, isn't it?" said Wynne, returning the phone. "She must like you. It's not like her to write something like that." "Well, as I explained yesterday, we didn't really talk for long." "It's obviously worked. She never sends a message with kisses. You must have got through to her in a way that I cannot. See? I told you how good you are with people." Ashleigh set off towards the main entrance to the office, her black coat snug about her slender frame. Wynne watched her for a moment, trying to connect the rather awkward conversation that he had had with Ashleigh's mother, and Ashleigh's most firm comment that he had somehow connected with her. He did not see it himself, but the text was supportive. That was all that mattered. Shortly, the pair were sat in one of the conference rooms inside the law firm. It occupied the ground floor of a relatively new building, a typical chrome and glass construction. Paul Harrison waited for them both to sit on the opposite side to him before he poured water for all of them. He slipped off his chalk-striped jacket and sat down. Wynne waited, and Harrison reached to his collar, slipping a finger between the material and his neck and pulled as if it was too tight. Wynne smiled, pleased to note that Harrison still did this when he was getting ready to speak. It was his version of clearing his throat. "Well, I can't say I expected to be sat in a conference room with both of you at the same time," began Harrison. "How are you getting on at the banks?" Wynne looked at Ashleigh, allowing her to speak first. "I'm leaving Novo Bank. Michael might have told you." "No, I haven't spoken to him recently," admitted Harrison. "Oh, well, I resigned a couple of weeks ago. I start at Combank sometime in the new year." "Congratulations." "Thank you. I think I might have a bit of a fight on my hands to get across there in less than 6 months and without some kind of deal on my clients. Novo Bank are hemorrhaging staff, and the new management are rather jumpy." "Yes, I had heard that through the grapevine. How about you, Ian? Your bank suiting you?" "Absolutely, it's going very well. I'm pleased we sorted my divorce out before my bonuses kicked in," answered Wynne. "Well, we aim to please. Now, Ashleigh, Ian told me you have a spot of matrimonial difficulty and wanted an initial view, if you will, on your own position prior to you making your first move." "Yes, I wanted to know what to expect so that I can take certain steps to protect myself before I tell him, Peter that is, that I want a divorce." "That sounds sensible. Forewarned is forearmed and all that. How long have you been married?" "Since 1998, so 13 years. "Okay. Any children?" "Yes, Amelia, who is 8, and Christopher, who is 1. "Does Peter work?" "Yes, he's a partner in an engineering consultancy firm." "I see. We can get into the detail about assets and income in a moment, but you intend to commence divorce proceedings?" "Yes, as soon as possible, subject to safeguarding my position regarding the house and the children." "On what grounds?" asked Harrison. "Well, where to start?" Ashleigh looked towards Wynne and held out her hand. He took it and gave it a reassuring squeeze. "He's nasty to me, puts me down, calls me names. He never helps me with the children. He's been violent towards me in the past. He makes life difficult for me with work, since his business always has to come first. I'm often left alone by him, having to bring up 2 children on my own, run a house and do my job. Do you want some details about what he's done? Ian knows all about it. His memory's better than mine. Not at this stage. So you'll be looking to divorce him on the ground that your marriage is irretrievably broken down by reason of his unreasonable behaviour, and that you can no longer be expected to live with Peter. Basically, yes. Okay, well, that's a start. We don't have to throw mud in order to get across the line. But he should know what he's done, interjected Ashleigh. Yes, of course, I'm sure he does know that. I'm just saying that for the purpose of securing a divorce, we could suggest that he works long hours, you're lonely, and have been left to raise the children and household alone. Yes, but that's not the whole story. I know. I'm not suggesting that you aren't telling me the truth, but if we throw everything at him, he's likely to react and deny it. You then have to prove your allegations, which increases the cost and also the nastiness. Plus, if he finds out that you've been involved in a relationship with Ian, he may cross-petition for divorce based upon your adultery, explained Harrison. Ha! He drove me into the arms of Ian. If it wasn't for this man, I wouldn't be here, said Ashleigh defiantly. Well, I know Ian's a splendid fellow, but I'm just advising on the smoothest course you may wish to take. He doesn't even have to admit to the allegation. He can choose not to defend the petition, and the divorce will be granted. In order to get him to play ball, I recommend a euphemistic approach in the context of the petition. That does sound sensible, added Wynne. Ashleigh remained silent. Wynne could see her eyes blazing as she fought to contain her anger at her treatment at Peter's hands. Save your powder for other battles that might happen, such as the house and the children, observed Wynne. Ian has a point. Okay, go on, I'm listening. Right. Where is the matrimonial home? Littleburn. We have a 5-bedroom house there, worth about £800,000. Very nice. Is it in both your names? Any other properties? Yes and no. You want to stay in the matrimonial home? For the time being. I want to sell it and buy somewhere with Ian. There are too many bad memories in that house for me to want to stay in it for much longer. I understand, soothed Harrison. What will I get out of the house? I will need somewhere large enough for all of us to live. Well, you will get the lion's share of the house as it is a capital asset. Generally speaking, the court will see that the children will live most of the time with you, so you need the larger house, thus you will get a larger percentage of the equity from the house. I take it there is equity in it. Yes, the mortgage is about £400,000. Fine. Now, the house issue might be affected by other assets, pensions, for example, and so on, so it will all go into the mix, but generally speaking, we will be looking to secure a larger percentage for you, so you can go on and buy a similar-sized property, albeit probably less expensive. Not with what Ian earns. We will be getting a more expensive house. I will show him how I have traded up, said Ashleigh. Harrison shot a glance towards Wynne, who tried to hide his surprise at this revelation concerning the value of the house they were going to buy together. So you shouldn't be too concerned about the property. What about maintenance? Asked Ashleigh. Does Peter earn more than you? Asked Harrison. Oh, yes, although I wouldn't put it past him to massage the firm's accounts so he ends up earning less, just in order to spite me. Well, it often happens, but we can deal with that eventuality should it arise. It would be worthwhile, if you can, laying your hands on some recent accounts before they, shall we say, disappear. I can do that. He keeps them in the study. Fine. If you intend to set up home with Ian, he will be deemed to be the one to support you, and thus you can forget about any spousal maintenance. What? Nothing? After everything he's done to me? I'm afraid, short of trying to murder you, the law is not much interested in who is at fault when it comes to the financials, explained Harrison. Really? I find that hard to believe. I am entitled to his income. Do you know how long I've sat along dealing with crying babies? I'm sure it can't have been easy, but I'm merely advising you on what the law says. That's ridiculous. She turned to Ian. Isn't that outrageous? You know, I have half a mind to pretend we don't live together, so he has to pay me something, at least to begin with. It will make me feel better. If he gets wind of Ian being involved, he's likely to hire someone to watch the matrimonial home, and then your new home, to see who's living there. Yes, He would do something shitty like that. I suppose Ian could stay at his house until it's sold and just come and visit me every so often. That way we cannot be said to be cohabiting, proposed Ashleigh. Well, yes, that may work. I suppose you need to decide how that works within your relationship. We can discuss that later, Ashleigh. Today is about getting a view, said Wynne. Yes, of course, forgive me. I just get so angry with the so-and-so after everything he's put me through. Shall I continue? Asked Harrison. Of course, please do. He will probably have to pay something towards the 2 children. This will be based on how often they stay with you. They will be with me all of the time, interrupted Ashleigh. What about when you're working? Asked Harrison. Oh, the nanny will deal with them. He hasn't shown any interest in the children so far, so I doubt he will want to really spend any time with them. What he will want to do, though, is hurt me. He will try and take the children from me. What makes you say that? Asked Harrison. Because he's threatened to do so before. In what way? He has said that if we ever split up, he will take the children from me because I am an unfit mother. He will try and say I have a mental health problem and a drink problem. I haven't, of course, but it's just part of his method of control. That's why I've been too frightened to do anything about leaving previously. I'm terrified he will tell lies about me and have the children taken away from me. They are my life. Ashleigh stifled a sob, and Wynne placed a hand on her shoulder. She looked down at the table, her hand to her mouth, and then reached for her glass of water. Gulping down half the contents, she composed herself and smiled. Sorry about that. You were saying? Well, actually, you were telling me about what Peter might do once he knows that you wish to divorce him. Yes, he has made it very clear that he will ensure I am deemed unfit for the reasons I have outlined. Look, I suffer from mild depression and take some Prozac. He causes that depression, nothing else. Has he suggested to an outside agency previously that you have a problem looking after the children? A doctor or a teacher, perhaps? Never. Has he ever telephoned the police claiming you've acted in a way that has put the children at risk? No. So he hasn't documented any concern previously about your fitness or otherwise to look after Amelia and, Harrison looked down at his notepad, Christopher. No, he hasn't because he can't. Then you should relax. If he starts these allegations now, we will simply ask why it is that these concerns have only surfaced once the divorce petition has been served. We will suggest that it's merely a device to lash out in the context of the ongoing divorce. Precisely. I like your approach. Good. So will the children get to stay with me? Well, since you are the primary caregiver, you bet I am. I get up through the night with Christopher. He never does. I run Amelia to all her school events and extracurricular stuff, as well as birthday parties and so on. He seriously does nothing. Okay, well, as I say, as primary caregiver, you are likely to be awarded residence of the children with Peter having some form of contact, maybe a night in the week and a night at the weekend. You might be able to work that out between you. I doubt it. He'll be awkward about it, I know it. The main thing for me is that I know they will be with me most of the time, and that his lies won't add up to anything. Correct. Good. Do you have any assets just in your name? Just my pension, such as it is. All the savings account, ISAs and shares we have are jointly held. Fine. Do you think he has any assets you might not know about? I wouldn't think so. It might be worth having a look around at home, in the study you mentioned on the computer. We can always have them examined if need be, but it would be very helpful if you are able to identify these assets before we get things moving. Good idea. He won't be back until late tonight, so I'll start looking now. How soon can you get things moving? Well, that depends on you. Presumably you wish to tell him yourself. Can't you just write to him? Well, yes, I know it will be uncomfortable, probably worse, but it's often best to prepare and explain him face to face, and then a letter can follow straight after. If you suggest that's the best thing to do. I do. You may wish to consider arranging to stay somewhere else when you first break the news to him, just in case there are any repercussions. No, he can leave. I want him out. He can go and stay with his father or his sister. She doesn't live too far away. Very well, but he might not agree, and after all, he does own half the house. If he refuses, can we get him to leave? Well, if you can point to certain behaviour towards you, it may be possible to seek an injunction to keep him away from you and also have him stay away from the house. "We will do that, then," said Ashleigh firmly. "Please understand, Paul, this is me fighting back against years of abuse." "Yes, I can understand that you feel strongly about it." "I do. I am doing it for the sake of my children, and thank God I have Ian by my side. He's a total angel." It's always important to have a support network when dealing with a stressful matter such as this. Now, is there anything else? "No, that covers the main points that I'm concerned about. Please will you prepare a letter and a petition, and I will telephone you when I want it sent to him." "Of course. I will send you an engagement letter also. Where do you want it sent?" "Send it to Ian's house. He can pass it on to me when we see one another." "I will do that." The three rose and shook hands. Harrison led them back to reception before heading away to his next appointment. Ashleigh and Wynne put on their coats and stepped out into the dark of the early evening, the wind still blowing. "All right?" asked Wynne, looking at Ashleigh, who appeared thoughtful. "Absolutely. Better than how I thought it would be, actually. This calls for a celebration. The first step towards our new life together. Come on. Let's go and have some champagne. You can buy." "Sounds good to me," smiled Wynne, delighted to hear Ashleigh speaking positively about them. They linked arms and crossed the plaza, making for some nearby bars.